The Buddha sat beneath a fig tree, its ancient roots twisting into the earth as disciples gathered near. The morning sun filtered through leaves, dappling light onto the serene scene, casting shadows across the ground. Buddha's eyes opened slowly, revealing a gaze as calm as the surface of still water after the storm. Today, Buddha began, his voice resonating softly, we shall speak of relationships, their nature, and the essence of connection. A gentle breeze stirred the branches above, carrying whispers of leaves that seemed to echo Buddha's tranquil words. Observe this lotus flower, Buddha said, lifting it in one hand, petals delicate and trembling against the warm air. This flower exists because the soil nourished it, the water sustained it, and the sun embraced its growth. Buddha turned to his disciples, the lotus still held between his fingers, like a teacher offering a sacred text. Relationships, too, must be nurtured by trust, compassion, and understanding, like the lotus rooted in the earth's gentle embrace. The disciples listened intently, their faces filled with reverence, soaking in wisdom like parched ground receiving rain. Buddha set the lotus flower down gently, letting it rest on the ground. As its petals shimmered in sunlight, a relationship begins within the self, Buddha said, his voice tender yet firm, reaching into the depths of their minds. If your heart is clouded by desire or fear, the connection you form will be fragile, like smoke and wind. Buddha gestured to the river that flowed nearby, its waters clear and reflecting the surrounding trees with perfect clarity. Look into this river, Buddha said, pointing. It mirrors the sky above, untouched and pure, embracing all it reflects. Like the river, a conscious relationship mirrors truth and clarity when it is calm, unburdened by ripples of ego. A disciple stepped forward, bowing low, and spoke hesitantly, Master, how can we calm our inner waters? Buddha turned his gaze to the disciple, his expression kind and open, ready to guide with compassionate insight. Begin by observing your thoughts, Buddha replied. Do not judge them, but let them flow, as clouds drift in the sky. Through mindful awareness, you will quiet the storms within, allowing harmony to rise like dawn after the dark. The disciple bowed again, murmuring thanks, while Buddha's gaze returned to the lotus resting on the soil. Attachment is like holding tightly to this flower, Buddha said, gently plucking its petals, watching them fall to earth. It withers, bruised by the grasp, and the beauty once admired fades like dreams upon waking from sleep. True connection comes not from possession but from allowing others to flourish, free to bloom in their own time. A second disciple spoke, her voice clear, Master, how do we nurture others without clinging or controlling their paths? Buddha smiled softly, the corners of his lips turned upward, like the quiet promise of sunrise after night's rain. Offer guidance, but do not bind, Buddha said, his words weaving threads of understanding through the disciple's questioning mind. Support others as the soil supports the lotus, not by possession, but by enabling growth, fostering potential. Wisdom lies in knowing that relationships, like all things, are impermanent, subject to change as time flows onward. Buddha gestured to the sky above, where the sun now climbed higher, its light brightening the forest clearing. See how the morning becomes noon, Buddha said, his voice reflective. Time transforms all, yet the essence remains unchanged. Embrace impermanence, for it teaches us to cherish moments, not as possessions, but as gifts fleeting and precious. The disciples exchanged glances, their hearts stirred by the profound truth Buddha revealed. Like awakening from slumber to clarity, Buddha rose slowly from his seat, the fabric of his robe cascading gently as he stood beneath the towering fig tree. He walked towards the river, his steps light and deliberate, each movement echoing peace and timelessness. The disciples followed in silence, their footsteps falling in rhythm with the soft rustle of leaves above. Buddha stopped at the riverbank, pointing to the water's surface where a bird landed, ripples spreading out in circles. "Observe how the ripples spread," Buddha said, his voice steady. "A single act reverberates, affecting all it touches. So too in relationships. Every word, every action creates ripples, shaping the connection shared with another being. Choose your actions with care and intention, for the ripples you send forth may soothe or disturb the waters." Buddha crouched by the water's edge, lifting his hands as he cupped some river water, letting it flow back freely. "Relationships thrive through giving, not grasping," Buddha said, releasing the water as it mingled again with the current. "A heart that gives seeks not reward but rejoices in the harmony it fosters between beings." Buddha stood, turning towards the disciples, his gaze warm and inviting, like light breaking through the clouds. "Remember, the flower blooms not for itself, but for all to witness its beauty and draw inspiration from it." The disciples bowed deeply, their hands pressed together, feeling the wisdom Buddha bestowed upon them through his profound words. As the day stretched onward, the disciples carried Buddha's teachings within their hearts, seeds of truth sown in fertile soil. The river flowed, the lotus lay untouched, and the sun cast shadows long upon the earth as time passed. Buddha, serene and present, walked away from the fig tree, leaving his disciples to contemplate the lesson shared. Each disciple's heart echoed the call of compassion, interconnectedness, and conscious awareness revealed by Buddha's sacred guidance. Another day, another lesson. As the Buddha wandered into the forest, his disciples following silently, leaves crunching underfoot, the sun filtered through the canopy, casting shifting patterns on the earth, as though the forest itself breathed with life. The Buddha stopped by an ancient tree, its roots coiled like serpents, and gestured for his disciples to gather around. "Today," said the Buddha, his voice a calm river of sound, "we will speak of the threads that bind us." One disciple, a young monk named Suman, stepped forward hesitantly, seeking clarity. "Blessed One," he asked, his voice tinged with curiosity and doubt, "how do we remain untroubled when faced with such rejection?" The Buddha looked at Suman with kindness and replied, "Suman, the empty bowl teaches us that our peace lies not in others' actions but in our own hearts. Imagine this vine as the thread of connection," he began, "strong when balanced, yet fragile when pulled too tightly." The Buddha placed the vine on the ground before him, folding his hands in his lap as he continued speaking. "In relationships, the thread between hearts is golden when spun from trust, but frayed by possessiveness or neglect," Buddha explained. A disciple asked, "Master, how do we keep this thread strong amidst the challenges of life and impermanence?" The Buddha smiled gently, the corners of his lips lifting as if carrying the weight of ancient wisdom. "By honoring the essence of respect," he replied, "and nurturing relationships like a gardener tends to delicate blooms." The Buddha gestured to the wildflowers growing at the tree's roots, their petals swaying lightly in the forest breeze. "Once," the Buddha began, "there was a weaver who created fabric so fine it shimmered in sunlight like flowing water. Her secret was to weave slowly, attentively, never rushing, for haste weakened the thread and unraveled the beauty. So too in relationships," the Buddha said, "we must weave our connections with care, patience, and the intention of kindness." The disciples nodded, their thoughts quiet as they reflected on the weaving of their own lives with others. Another disciple spoke hesitantly, "Master, what if the thread is broken? Can it be mended, or is it lost forever?" The Buddha turned his gaze to the disciple, his eyes calm and unwavering, like the moon reflected in still water. "A broken thread is not the end," he said, "but an opportunity to weave anew, to create something even stronger." However, he continued, Mending requires humility, honesty, and the courage to admit one's own faults and seek forgiveness. Consider the water in the river, the Buddha said, pointing to a nearby stream, its surface rippling in soft sunlight. When a stone falls in, the water parts, then flows back together, whole and continuous, never clinging to separation. Relationships, when conscious, flow like the water, adapting and healing when met with obstacles in their path. The disciples turned their eyes to the stream, mesmerized by its gentle motion, its rhythm a mirror of Buddha's teachings. The Buddha picked up a handful of soil, letting it sift through his fingers as the breeze carried it away. Attachment is like this soil, he said. If gripped too tightly, it is lost. If held gently, it stays. In conscious relationships, we must give space for others to grow, without suffocating their freedom with our expectations. A third disciple asked, "Master, how do we let go of attachment without abandoning those we love deeply?" The Buddha's expression softened, as though he held infinite compassion for the disciple's question and the longing behind it. By understanding the balance of presence and freedom, the Buddha said, walking beside others without trying to control their steps. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the town in hues of amber and gold, the monks returned to Jetavana Grove. They sat in quiet reflection, the teachings of the day imprinted on their hearts like the fading warmth of the evening sun. The Buddha, seated beneath the tree, closed his eyes, his stillness a reminder of the peace that comes from transcending rejection and embracing wisdom. Another day, the sun rose gently over Jetavana Grove, casting golden light across the tranquil monastery and its peaceful surroundings. "Look at this web," he said, each thread supporting the others. Fragile yet strong when held in balance. When one thread is severed, the web may falter, but it can be rebuilt with patience and careful attention. So too with relationships, the Buddha continued. Each connection we form is part of a greater web of interconnectedness. The strength of one thread affects the whole, reminding us to act with mindfulness and compassion in every interaction. A breeze stirred the web, causing it to sway, yet it held firm, its design adapting to the forest's breath. The disciples marveled at the spider's craft, seeing in it the wisdom the Buddha described, woven into their own lives. Remember, the Buddha said, to live consciously in relationships is to see each thread as sacred, deserving of care. Through trust, respect, and understanding, we honor the golden thread that ties us to one another and to all things. The Buddha bowed his head slightly, his hands folded as though in prayer, his presence a beacon of quiet strength. The disciples bowed in return, feeling the weight of their master's teachings settle within them like seeds waiting to sprout. As the day turned to dusk, the forest seemed to echo Buddha's words, the golden thread of connection uniting all. The Buddha smiled once more, turning to lead his disciples back toward the world, their minds reflecting the teachings given. The spider's web glistened in fading light, a testament to resilience, balance, and the sacred art of conscious relationships. Another day, another lesson. As the Buddha ascended the mountain, his disciples following closely, the air cool and still, the path wound through jagged rocks and sparse trees, each step bringing them closer to the summit, where clouds lingered. At the peak, the Buddha sat cross-legged on a flat stone, his robe glowing softly under the sun's gentle rays. The disciples formed a circle around him, their breath steadying after the climb, their hearts open to receive his words. Today, the Buddha began, his voice low and resonant. We shall explore the self, for it is the root of all relationships. He gestured toward the vast valley below, where rivers snaked through fertile land, a tapestry of life unfolding endlessly. Every relationship, the Buddha said, is a mirror reflecting your own nature. Without self-understanding, clarity in connection cannot exist, a disciple asked. Master, how do we begin this journey of self-understanding while living amidst the demands of the world? The Buddha turned his gaze to the disciple, his expression serene, as if holding the universe's timeless wisdom. Begin by observing your inner thoughts and emotions, he replied, not as masters of you, but as passing clouds in the sky. When you witness anger, joy, or longing, do not claim them as yours. Simply acknowledge their presence and let them pass. The disciples nodded, their faces reflecting a mix of contemplation and awe at the simplicity and depth of his words. Rahula, emboldened by the lesson, turned to the Buddha and asked, Blessed One, how do we transform rejection into strength, like the lotus rising above mud? The Buddha smiled, his gaze resting on Rahula, his voice steady as he replied, by choosing not to dwell in anger or despair. He continued, instead, nurture your heart with compassion, patience, and the understanding that rejection is but a passing shadow. The merchant bowed low, his voice filled with newfound determination as he said, Blessed One, your words have given me hope. I will try again. The Buddha inclined his head, his serene expression radiating warmth, and replied, May your efforts bloom like the lotus, untainted and resilient. Let them calm, and your reflection will be true. The Buddha paused, his eyes closed briefly, as though drawing wisdom from the silence that enveloped the mountain peak. To nurture conscious relationships, one must first calm their inner waters, allowing the mirror of the self to reflect clearly. Another disciple spoke, his voice steady, Master, how do we remain patient when others' actions disturb our calm? The Buddha opened his eyes, meeting the disciple's gaze with a calm intensity that seemed to reach into his soul. Anand watched the seed lying on the earth, feeling its symbolic presence resonate deeply, yet still wrestling with uncertainties. But, Master, what if the seed fails to grow? What if circumstances prevent it from reaching its full potential? The Buddha reached for the seed, holding it once more, his expression unwavering in its calmness and quiet certainty. The disciples bowed their heads, humbled by the insight that transformed the way they viewed themselves and those around them. The Buddha stood and walked to the edge of the peak, pointing toward the horizon, where sky and earth met seamlessly. See how the horizon merges sky and land, he said, a union that exists without striving, natural and harmonious. In relationships, this harmony arises not from control, but from acceptance of each other's essence and imperfections. The meditation stretched into stillness, each word a seed planted in fertile soil. After the meditation, the Buddha spoke again, so too are we shaped by our interactions. Our edges soften through the challenges of connection and understanding. The Buddha handed the stone to a disciple, who felt its smooth surface. Pondering the metaphor etched within it, a gentle breeze swept across the peak, carrying with it the faint scent of pine and the sound of distant birdsong. Remember, the Buddha said, you are both the stone and the river, shaped by others while shaping them in return. Conscious relationships require balance, a dance between giving and receiving, like the river and the stone in their eternal flow. The disciples sat in silence, the weight of the Buddha's teachings settling within them like seeds in fertile soil. The Buddha returned to his seat, crossing his legs once more, and folded his hands in his lap, palms upward. Let us meditate upon the self, he said, to calm our inner waters and see clearly the truth of our being. The disciples closed their eyes, their breaths deep and rhythmic, as the mountain seemed to hold them in its embrace. Minutes stretched into an eternity, the silence broken only by the soft rustle of leaves and the occasional call of a bird. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows as the discussion continued. The king, feeling gratitude, said, Blessed One, Your wisdom restores peace to my heart and reignites hope for our kingdom." The queen echoed his sentiment. "Your teachings are a light in our darkness. When you feel overwhelmed, return to your breath, the simplest rhythm of life, and let it guide you to stillness." The disciples nodded, their determination renewed, ready to carry the wisdom of the mountaintop into the valleys of their lives. The sun began its descent, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson. As shadows stretched long across the land, the Buddha rose, his movements deliberate and unhurried, as he gestured for the disciples to begin their journey down the mountain. As they walked, the Buddha spoke, his voice blending with the fading light. "Every relationship begins and ends within the self. Know yourself deeply, and you will know the essence of others. For we are all reflections of the same truth." The path down was steep, but the disciples felt lighter, their burdens eased by the wisdom woven into every step. The mountain stood tall behind them, a silent witness to the teachings that had unfolded upon its ancient. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.